On this week's episode, we're going to look ahead towards the Imola Grand Prix, or the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, should I say. We're going to talk about McLaren's rear brakes and what their trickery is up to this time. And of course, what on earth is going on at Alpine? Hello and welcome to another episode of Back of the Grid. I am Tom and I am joined by Chris.
Evening.
Good evening. I've set the scene, right? Which of those bits do you want to start
It's been
with?
a busy old week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's an off week, right? When we've not got back to back races, someone has to kick up some drama.
And that someone was Alpine this time.
Yeah,
I guess we'll start with the driver swap, which I think we've all seen coming for a while, but it is official now that Alpine are replacing Doohan with Colapinto as of this weekend's Grand Prix. They've said it's part of them rotating their driver pool, and officially Colapinto is in the car for 5 races. In reality, unless he crashes in all 5 of those races, I doubt we're going to see another change there. But yeah, I mean, we've talked at length about whether Doohan deserves to get dropped or not, and whether Colapinto deserves to get promoted or not. So I don't think we need to labour it too much. But yeah, a tough pill for Doohan, I think.
yeah. The other option is that by the time we get to 5 or 6 races time, someone like Gabriele Amini's in the car, getting a jump up from F2 or something like that. But
you never know.
You never know with Alpine at the minute. They're they feel it's weird, isn't it? Because despite how quickly the whole Lawson thing went down, it feels like this one's been going on longer. Like even before the season started, there was this whole speculation about Doohan only having a 5-race deal and all that speculation around that before we'd even gone to a racetrack. And then you've now got a similar thing seemingly allegedly hanging over Colapinto of he's on a 5-race deal. Like, could there be something in the fact that maybe Doohan's got someone fighting his corner from a contractual point of view that maybe means they've got to be carful how they play it, and they can't just him.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, yeah, as we always say, like F1 contracts are so full of clauses and deals and all sorts going on. Yeah, it's a good point. There's probably something strange going on behind the scenes there, and also keeping their options open. Like as good as Colapinto was for some races last year, he then followed that up by crashing a bunch. So I don't think his stock is quite as high as it maybe once was. So I guess they're keeping their options open a little bit there.
Yeah, could well be. How do you think Colapinto will do? What's your general expectation for him over 5 races, if that's as many as they give him?
What are the 5 races? Let's see what he's actually going to be.
So he will do a triple header, which I think is a tough way to start, but yeah. It is what it is, I guess. So you've got the triple header currently, which is Imola, Monaco, and Barcelona, and then you've got a flyaway of sorts, I guess, to Canada for Circuit de Villeneuve in Montreal, and then you've got the Red Bull Ring in Austria. When we come back,
it's not an easy run he's got there, is it? I mean, Imola's a track that doesn't have a whole lot of margin for error. I won't be surprised to see him having some offs at that track. I mean, Monaco is Monaco. Spain, Canada, Austria a bit more normal. So, yeah, I think he's going to... I think these first 2 races of this stretch may be a struggle. But I think if over the 5 he can... I mean, I guess ultimately he just needs to be averaging better finishes than Doohan was. Maybe picking up a handful of points if he can. Like that's ultimately what he needs to do. Yeah, like I think he's a talented guy. I hope it goes well for him. Sad to see Doohan leaving so soon, but I don't think he did enough to make the argument to keep that seat, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why it's happened for sure. I think
Yeah.
the one thing that'll probably play into Colapinto's favour in some degree is from his junior career, sort of Formula 3, Formula 2 at least. He always did quite well at Imola. Like picked up a couple of wins in like sprint races and things like that during his time in F3 and F2. And if memory serves, did okay in Monaco as well. So coming into those two circuits, if they're two circuits that he enjoys and has got sort of fond memories of, so to speak,
Yeah.
he might be able to get up to speed a little bit quicker and get somewhere close to Pierre, if that's the case.
Not
But
like he's coming into unknown circuits.
yeah, exactly. So yes, it'll be difficult that they are back to back, but possibly helped by the fact he's gone well there before and possibly has a bit of affinity for them.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see. But yeah, it's very, very Flavio all this, isn't it?
Well,
like Flavio is now what is it, an adjective? No, is that an adjective? I forgot all my grammar terms. But
all gone a bit Flav.
It's all got a bit flat.
Speaking of, around all of this drive replacement has just been one of the wilder series of bits of F1 news I've seen in a while. So the day everyone was kind of primed for the news of this driver swap, and then a day or two before it, we got the news out of nowhere that Ollie Oakes, the Alpine team principal, was resigning effective immediately. Everybody's sort of first thought was immediately, oh, there's been a disagreement over the drivers. He wants Doohan to stay. Flavio wants Colapinto in. They've had a disagreement. He's decided to step away. Wouldn't have surprised me if that was the truth. Like between Flavio Briatori and Luca Di Maio, who is the Renault CEO, I don't think team principals at that team have traditionally had as much control as team principals at other teams. So him deciding to leave under that kind of being overall and stuff would not have surprised me. However, a couple of days after that, so Ollie Oakes, you may remember, came from High Tech, which is the feeder series team that compete in like F2, F3, various F4s. I think they run some F1 Academy teams, loads of feeder series stuff.
Yeah.
And Ollie and his brother Williams are both directors of High Tech GP. Just after Ollie resigned from Alpine, William was arrested outside Silverstone while in possession of what the police described as a large amount of cash, and has been charged with transferring criminal property. There were also some reports that some of High Tech's cars got impounded, but so far it seems like they've still been able to take part in the sort of junior races they were supposed to. So
yeah, they were still at Formula 4, British Formula 4.
So
last weekend or the weekend before when they were at Silverstone. It was in amongst all this, I think, the time that they were there.
So touch wood, this shouldn't affect the race team too much.
Yeah.
We should say there's absolutely no suggestion that Ollie Oakes is in any way connected to anything his brother's been arrested for, but he did fly from the Miami Grand Prix directly to Dubai and seems to have not left ever since then. So there's definitely something a bit weird going on there. Also worth noting, again, no suggestion there's any connection, but as a point of note, High Tech is majority owned by Dmitry Mazepin, father of Nikita, who is still under lots of European sanctions because he's very close to Vladimir Putin. It's just such a bizarre series of events. Like, doesn't look great for Alpine. I mean, in all of this, Flavio Briatori has now ended up back as team principal, which in itself is just a very Flavio thing to happen. But also, the guy was at one point banned for life from Formula One for cheating, and he's now back in charge of a team. Alpine's just such a constant mess. Like,
I mean, the common denominator though is Flavio Briatori to
it
some
is,
degree,
like,
because it's been a bit of a bonfire since he came back in any capacity. Since he's been around that team again, it just seems to be a mess.
well, if you go back to 2021, since then they've had, just in terms of team principals, they had Omar Safnower, then Bruno Famin, then Ollie Oakes, and now Flavio. In that time, they also had Marcin Bukowski, who was technical director, but he was basically running the team. We had Davide Brivio, who was officially racing director, but also kind of running the team. They used to have Alain Prost in place as an advisor, and he got pushed out. Countless technical staff have left. And not to mention the fact that Alonso left and they then fumbled the Piastri contract situation and lost him as well. And yeah, like say, the only constants really are Flavio and Luca Di Maio. And beneath them, it's just a revolving door and constant chaos. They're just such a mess of a team.
Yeah, I suppose to be fair, Flav's only officially been back about a year now, I think.
Yeah.
He's been around a little bit longer than that, but he's only been back in an official capacity for about 12 months. So, yeah, it's maybe not entirely him, but still, it's I think it's frustrating because you've seen the potential that they might have this season in flashes with like what Gasly's been able to do in the car and stuff like that, and it feels like that anything that anyone like Gasly could achieve this season is going to end up being overshadowed by just all this controversy around the whole thing and around the people running the thing. But
I mean, there's clearly talented people within that team. Like I said, there's flashes of brilliance there. They won a race a couple of years ago, but it's just this constant turntable of personnel. There's zero consistency, and you look at a team like McLaren, who have been at the back and moved to the front, and they have like built a team and had stability and had people in roles that have been able to excel. And how many times have we heard Alpine having another 100 race plan to be back at the front? Like, yeah, just such a mess and really frustrating. I mean, Gasly must be wondering like what he needs to do next, because I just can't see that team progressing at all. I mean, Colapinto, at least he's back on the grid now. Hopefully works out for him. But I mean, we already knew that Piastri getting out of that Alpine contract was like a decent move for him, given where he's ended up. But you look at the chaos now, it's like move of the century for him to get out of that contract. Like,
yeah, it's better than anything he's actually done in the car. Is him and Mark Webber getting him out of
sending that tweet,
the announcement. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy to think back that that's where we were. Like what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was. It's crazy,
bizarre, very bizarre. Should we talk about McLaren as we've mentioned them?
Yes.
And all the stuff about their brakes, which there's been like bits and bobs of. We had Zach Brown with his tire water bottle on the on the pit wall in Miami. But this is it's sort of coming to a head a little bit at the moment. So we know that the McLaren car is very good at keeping its rear tires within a temperature window. The whole tire water thing came from an initial suggestion from Red Bull that McLaren was somehow using water or water vapor within the tires to help cool them. Apparently, a third party gave Red Bull some infrared images, which Red Bull kind of uses evidence that McLaren were up to something with their rear tires. It's now kind of looking that it's actually, I mean, the FIA have looked at their rear tires, their rear brakes multiple times and not come up with anything. It just looks like they have come up with something very clever with the design within the rules. Some people think it's just very clever use of cooling ducts, having a very tuned airflow between the brakes and the wheel hubs that's extracting the heat. There's also suggestion that they're using something called phase changing materials within their brake ducts. So there's lots of YouTube videos explaining this in detail, but essentially phase changing materials are materials that are able to take in a change in temperature, use that energy to change the state of the material, but in the process, stay at a constant heat. So, like, I think the simplest way I've heard it explained is if you think of a glass of water with an ice cube in it, as the temperature around it rises, the ice will melt into the water. So the state of it will change, but the unit as a whole remains the same temperature. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's going to be very difficult for other teams to A, work out, and then B, replicate. So it seems a very baked in advantage that McLaren seem to have. Red Bull have been really pushing investigations on this. We know the cars are under pretty heavy investigation after the race in Miami, which apparently Thursday, a report on that's going to be coming out. And like I've heard Zach Brown complaining a lot about the amount of scrutiny they're being put under and how much Red Bull are complaining, but like that's the game. Like
it's part of being successful.
Yeah.
Like when Red Bull was successful, people had complaints in against them every other weekend.
Well,
and
like
when Mercedes was successful, people had complaints in about them every other weekend. And sometimes the complaints have merit, and it does come to fruition that something's not within the... Well, I mean, generally, the teams are clever enough in what they're doing to not actually be breaking rules. They're just usually not within the spirit of the rules, is the term that normally gets thrown around. And because of that, the majority of the time you end up with a situation where, I don't know, I think DAS, the system that Mercedes had, it wasn't breaking any of the rules the way that they were written, but as the FIA adjudicated, it wasn't like within the spirit of the rules and the thought process behind them when they were written. So it was allowed to exist until the end of the season and then was outlawed. And we've seen that with other things in the past. Or, I don't know, you kind of get the oil burn gate situation with Ferrari that sort of disappeared behind closed doors, and you kind of saw Ferrari lose a bit of performance off the back of it, but nothing too major. So it happens all the time. It's just that is a symptom of being at the front. Like, who's going to protest a car that's coming home 15th every weekend, whether it's legal or not?
Yeah.
No one's going to bother protesting the Sauber this year.
Yeah, that
Nobody's
Sauber
going to protest
that. Completely illegal suspension setups and no one's batting an eyelid. And
unless he suddenly starts finishing in the top 10, and then suddenly people, like the other teams in the midfield, will be very on it. But
Haas are the prime example of that. Like, Haas buy all the parts they can from Ferrari. Whenever they do well, people are like, oh, should they be doing that? Whenever they do badly, everyone just forgets all about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I strongly suspect if they are using some very clever materials, they'll probably be outlawed for next season, because the FIA, it's the kind of thing the FIA wouldn't want a kind of a materials expensive arm race between the teams on. But yeah, as it is, everything continues to seem legal for them. They've been looked at a lot, and it seems to be the case. Yeah, and as at the point made in the Discord, like, it's also exactly what someone who is cheating would complain about. Like, oh, they're just harassing us because we're doing so well. Like, well, we've got to check. Like, it's entirely within the other team's permit to say, can we have a look at whether they're cheating or not? Like, Zach Brown suggested that teams should have to pay a fee in order to ask the
To lodge
FIA
a
to look.
protest.
Like, no, like if you think another team is cheating, you should be able to point out that another team is cheating. Like Christian Horner pointed to lots of times in the last few years when McLaren were kicking up a fuss about things Red Bull were doing, and like he's completely right.
100%.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be one of those things that keeps on rumbling on. I think it's very interesting. Like I say, there's loads of analysis online about it, going into way more detail. And if you're in any way interested in the techie side of F1, like go look these things up, because it's really interesting.
We would
stuff.
not do it justice.
Oh, not at all. I mean, you're talking about ice cube in a glass of water, where there's the people who've drawn like intricate airflow diagrams.
Yeah.
A couple of other newsy bits to do. Carlos Sainz Sr. has said he is considering running for FIA president. The next election is in December, which is the end of Mohammed Ben Sulayem's current stint. He's not officially said he's standing for re-election, but he definitely is. Like anyone knows anything about him knows he definitely is. No one else has suggested they would run, so it would likely be a 2-horse race. It sounds like he's got Carlos Sainz Sr.'s got pretty good support across various bits of motorsport. Obviously, he's very much got connections within the rally world, but he's been around F1 a lot because of his son as well. I've also read that, kind of off the record, lots of people within the F1 paddock have said they wouldn't kick up any kind of conflict of interest fuss about the fact that the FIA president's son is driving in Formula One.
Probably because they know that they would ultimately be in a better net scenario than they currently are.
Even if they did think there was potentially something up, it's got to be better than what we currently have. I saw a very funny thing the other day about all of the Lego F1 sets are going to start coming with a little MBS minifigure packing, because he's always there lurking near everything.
So many memes of him being like photoshopped into Max Verstappen's
when their kid was
daughter's
born,
birth pictures and stuff, and just so much memeage around him injecting himself into scenarios. But I mean, it's getting comical how like he just hovers around in the back of shot at end of race, and everybody ignores him. Like, it's become his own thing now, and I think deep down he'll hate that, but he'll keep doing it because he wants the attention.
Yeah, he doesn't know
but
anything
deep
better.
down he hates the attention that he's getting because everyone's making these memes about him. Like,
give me lots of attention. No, not that kind. Like,
I just hope he doesn't have a Reddit account.
Oh Christ!
He's in for a shock if he sees what gets said about him on Reddit.
I really do hope we at least get someone running against him. Like, even if it's only, even if he does end up winning a second term, maybe someone running against him will get him to see some of the errors in his presidency a bit. But honestly, at this point, pretty much anyone else would be preferable, I think.
Jose's just made an interesting point in the chat saying, if anything, Carlos Sainz Jr. might end up suffering because his dad punishes him harsher to try and eliminate any suggestion of favoritism or nepotism. So,
yeah, he'll eradicate the fines for swearing, except for his son, because you can't be swearing on TV. One last bit of I mean, it's barely news, but in the past few days, there's been a lot of rumours swirling around Christian Horner's position within Red Bull and whether there is a renewed push to oust him from his position in the team. I suppose if this is true, my suspicion would be the previous time when he was on the verge of being pushed out of the team, he was at least still delivering results, delivering wins, delivering world championships. Now, with all the clouds around him, and also the team are having the struggles they're currently having, maybe people within the team are starting to question why they're keeping him around. There's been talk around Franz Tost as a potential replacement. So he was the former Toro Rosso team principal, very well respected in the paddock. He was a big part of bringing a lot of the Red Bull juniors up through the ranks. He supposedly left that position because of disagreements with the way Christian Horner wanted to do things. Again, this is all very much rumor and hearsay, but interesting that it's cropping up again now.
I mean, have you heard one of the other names that people have been throwing around in connection to this?
I did see Ollie Oakes was mentioned at one point, and that was quickly swept under the carpet again.
Yes. I was like, I think that was just somebody trying to capitalize on a little bit of news about Horner potentially being on the way out.
Yeah.
Ollie Oakes leaving Alpine and trying to capitalize and say, "Ooh, there's a connection here to just be ahead of the curve."
Get all the clips.
Then everything went the way it did with the whole high-tech scenario and his brother, and that got squashed pretty quickly. I mean, you never know. There might just be two unrelated and completely coincidental events, and Oliver Oakes is going to become the team principal at Red Bull, but I doubt that at the moment.
Not impossible, but...
He'd at least be hiding in Austria if he was hiding somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Right, should we start doing some Imola stuff? Should we have a little set storyline?
Yeah, let's cover some storylines. So, I mean, we've talked about this one a little bit already, but Colapinto, he's not. I can confirm he's not in predictions league as a random driver. So let's do a little bit of a bonus prediction and sort of say, how do we think he's going to fare this weekend on his return?
I wouldn't be surprised to see him having some kind of incident during practice. Like it is a tough track that bites back, and he's going to be coming in wanting to impress, wanting to hit the ground running. Wouldn't be at all surprised if he has a practice crash. Race-wise, I would suspect he'll be closer to Gasly than Doohan generally was. I don't think he's going to come in and set the world alight race one, but I think if he can be closer, that'll be, a good start to his Alpine career.
Yeah. I'm going to sort of say he'll be similar to you. Like, I don't necessarily think he'll crash out during any of the practice sessions, but I think he'll be maybe on the ragged edge, just trying to get as much as he can out of it for sure, and probably get the mistakes out of his system, as we say, in the best time to do it, which is early practice sessions. I would then probably say he will come somewhere in that, like, outside the points midfield window. So, like, I'm going to guess like 14th to 11th, somewhere in that window, because that's realistically where, other than races where he's had a little bit more about it and been able to run in the points, that's roughly where the Alpine sat in Gasly's hands. So I would say that Gasly might be knocking on the door of some points, and Colapinto is going to be somewhere like 11th to 15th, something like that.
Yeah.
Would be my gut reaction to where he'll sit. So that should be interesting to see how that pans out all weekend. Some tyre changes for this weekend as well. We've seen this a lot throughout the season. Pirelli kind of changing around the config of tyres that they're taking to races to try and essentially spice up strategy decisions and make things a little bit different to previous years. So it's the first use of their extra soft C6 compound this weekend. Do we think that's going to make any difference to strategy calls here, or do you think it's just going to end up being a supreme quality tyre that we never really see in the race?
That's the worry, isn't it? I mean, the vast majority of drivers one-stopped last year, and I think in general, since we returned to Imola, it's been a one-stop race. I mean, I would hope that the entire range is a step softer. So I would hope that alone would be enough to maybe, if not force a two-stop, to make a two-stop a viable option. But yeah, this new C6, I would be surprised if we see in the race itself. I think it probably is going to be a qualifying tyre, but my hope is that the range in general is going to push closer to a two-stopper.
It seems to have worked at other races where they've done it. For the most part, it's generally speaking, I would say, where they've looked at races from previous years and said this was too easily a one stop. We're going to take the tyres a step softer. For the most part, it has worked. Even if the soft tyre ends up being a little bit more of an old school quali tyre, where that's the only place you really see it, I think that we're getting closer to that line where the trade off between two stop and one stop becomes blurred, and teams have to make like really conservative decisions about saving tyre life to make a one stop work and work out if that's actually a faster route to the position they want to be in, or if getting ultimate pace out of the tyres for like whatever duration that's realistic for, but doing a two stop, and they're sort of trying to find that crossover point and that perfect strategy.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a little bit more of teams being able to roll the dice like we have in previous, like other seasons, not necessarily the last couple, because a lot of races in the last couple of years have all felt a little bit like a one-stop guaranteed. They're just going to make it to the end. So it's good that Pirelli and I assume F1 to some degree are making these efforts to try and change that and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And like I say, I wouldn't say I've seen anything negative so far that's made me wish they weren't doing it. Let's put it that way. It's been either neutral because it's worked out about the same anyway, or positive because we've seen more intriguing strategy and like different combinations of tyres on circuit at different times compared to just everyone starting on medium, then everybody finishing on hard, and except that one guy who's starting out a position down the back who wants to put a set of hards on to try and run longer than everyone else and get some clean air. Like we've spent like nearly 3 years, it feels like, in that bubble, and now we're getting. I mean, didn't we not have a race over the last couple of race weekends where we had like all the different compounds on track at once in like legitimate strategies that were like it was just something that felt a bit alien, like we'd been missing for a few years, and it seemed to be back. So yeah, I think overall it's a positive thing so far that Pirelli and F1 are doing this.
Because the risk they're taking is by trying to nudge people towards a two stop, all they really do is make everybody one stop but do loads of tyre saving, which makes things even duller. But yeah, I'm glad, like I say, I'm glad they're experimenting with it. They're not always going to get it right, but I think there's definitely been improvement in that department this year, I think.
Yeah, I think if you can find that balance, like I agree completely. You don't want people driving slowly to save tyres, because we've gone too far the other way in previous years, which is kind of on that point where in previous years you've had people driving at say 80% of what they could have because the one stop is definitely faster, but you can't use the tyre at maximum pace to make it work. But it's still faster than pushing the tyres at 100% and doing two stops. And that was just it's good that they've found some sort of balance in between there with whatever they've been doing with the compounds. That's the positive out of all this, at least. Moving on from that, Ferrari, probably one of the front-running teams in the biggest need of upgrades, I would say, out of who's up there at the moment. And it's a home race for them, essentially, in Imola. Do we think they're going to bring enough to be competitive here?
It feels like a very Ferrari thing to do, to like rush an upgrade because it's a home race, but
I think did they not literally do this a couple of years ago at Imola?
I think they quite possibly did.
Rushed an upgrade to try and be competitive and failed miserably.
Yeah,
I feel like either that or it's just it's something we expect that much from them that I've tricked myself into believing it's really happened.
I honestly don't have a huge amount of confidence. Honestly, I think if they don't do something in the next few races, they're probably just gonna write the season off and already start focusing on next year. Like, just don't have a ton of faith in them at all. They seem a bit lost at the moment.
Yeah, and from the sounds of things, they're not planning on upgrading during the going into the triple header, which I don't know. I feel like that's a bad idea. Like, if you want to really, I suppose it works both ways. It's if something's not ready, it's sensible to not rush it and put it on the car ahead of a triple header because then if it's hard to come back from, you're stuck with it for 3 races.
Yeah.
But you've also got the flip side of if you don't put it on the car and it ends up being successful, you're kicking yourself that you've lost out on it for 2 or 3 races. So it's, there's swings and roundabouts there. And I guess there's an element, I mean, Sarah just mentioned it in the chat about the rule changes from an aero perspective that come in from Catalonia when we hit Spain. Like, maybe a few teams are going to hold on to deploy a big upgrade as part of that, and then also have time after Spain before we head out to Montreal to fine tune that if things aren't quite to the liking. Spain's always typically been the upgrade point for most teams, but usually it comes the other side of Monaco where Imola currently sits.
Yeah.
So it in terms of time of the year, it's in a different position, but because it's a circuit that's traditionally been used for breaking in car changes and shaking down car changes, it maybe makes sense that a few teams will hold off till the back end of this triple header before they start putting anything significant on the car for rule change perspectives and just known quantities of Catalonia perspectives, I guess.
Yeah, that wing change, the changing rules around the wings is going to really have an effect on the upgrade paths this season, I think, because it's kind of locking teams into this is the change you have to make. You can't really do anything else until you've got that front wing change dealt with. So, yeah, strange one.
Yeah. Another quick little one. You've got 2 potential 4 in a rows coming up. You've either got Piastri winning 4 in a row this season, or you've got Verstappen winning 4 Imolas in a row. Which do you think's more likely?
And are either of them less likely than Norris winning?
Who is number 4?
Yeah.
So there's 3 4s. Can we think of a 4th 4? I can't. I want a 4th 4 now. That's frustrating.
Hamilton's 44. Can we do anything with him?
What about a 4th different winner this season?
Oh yeah,
and it's someone completely out of that top 3.
So and it'll be Hamilton, who's number 44. There we go. We've got 4s on top of 4s.
4s everywhere.
I mean, of the 2 options, I think a 4th win for Piastri is probably more likely, given given what that McLaren is capable of at the moment. I mean, I don't want to get too ahead and start doing my predictions too early, but yeah.
I mean, Norris has gone well here before.
He has. I mean,
there was a year where he was potentially on. I mean, it was a deleted lap, I guess, but he was going to be on pole by a significant amount. I mean, even if you take into consideration what he might have earned with the infringement that cost him the lap in general, he was still set to be on pole by quite a margin until it was deleted. And he's looked fast here in the past, so I at least think he's going to make it difficult for Piastri to some degree.
I mean, this was the race last year, which was the first one where McLaren actually took the fight to Verstappen and was, they had a proper race for the victory between Norris and Verstappen. So,
yeah, definitely. And then I guess a bit of a quick one, depending on how deep we want to get into it. But there's been a lot of talk that Imola won't survive and get a new contract as a race. Do we think that that's the right thing to be happening for the sport? Do you think that we should be seeing it renewed? Like, how do you feel about it, Chris, specifically?
It's always sad to see these kind of traditional tracks leaving the calendar. And, the last thing we want is this to be replaced by a car park somewhere, which seems to be the way the calendar's going at the moment. But that being said, I just don't think this track suits Formula One anymore. It's just a bit too tight, a bit too clumsy. I mean, even WEC don't have I mean, they have entertaining races there, but it's not the best racing. At least between the hypercars. So, and I don't think it really suits modern F1 either. So,
Either the only reason you got anything out of WEC though when they were there the other weekend is probably because it's a lot easier to get elbows out and make contact with each other
exactly,
and not be race ending.
You
You've
can be a
obviously not
little
got that
riskier.
luxury in open wheel cars. I mean, the highest number of overtakes we've ever seen, according to a quick stat check I've done, is 42, and that was in 2021. Then you've got 23 overtakes in 2022. So that looks like it's the second highest.
It's not exactly spectacular, is it?
No. And then was it? I can't remember how many they were in 2024. That's not on my stats list for some reason.
It can't be many.
Maybe it was 30, I think. So it might have been somewhere in the middle. And Paul in the chat pointed out 2021 was that wet race. So
yeah,
that also makes sense as to why there were more overtakes. Everything was a bit neutralised and chaotic.
And, as exciting as the end of last year's race was when Norris chased down Verstappen, ultimately he never came close to actually making an overtake because it's a monumentally difficult track to overtake on. So, for all of the kind of history and everything with this track, I don't think I'll be that sad to see it go, unfortunately.
I feel like it's always going to be one of those that it's great to drive and it's sort of in one of those locations it's absolutely amazing to go visit as part of an F1 weekend. But the circuit, well, it depends on how you want to look at it, I guess. It's probably more the cars than the circuits, but the combination of the two just don't work in this era. And I think what upsets me is that we're dangerously close to Hungaroring being in this category of circuits that are now becoming a little bit too small for the current generation of cars. And the regulation changes that are going to make them a little bit smaller, they're not going to make them that much smaller. Like, we're not going back to the 90s and earlier when they were tiny in comparison. And, it makes sense that they are the size they are now to some degree from a safety aspect, but I think you could still have a lot of the safety features, if not all the safety features that we have, and the cars be much smaller than they currently are at the same time.
Yeah.
So, it'll be sad to see it go. Like I say, it's a lovely circuit, and I'd be sad, one of those that I'd be sad that over the little 5-year span that we've had it on the calendar since it popping back up to try and help with the 2020 season affected by COVID, like it's something that I'd be sad to have not taken advantage of being able to go and watch Formula One there just to experience it. But you can understand why it might lose its place.
Would you be open to it alternating with Monza? Or would you rather just have Monza?
I think that you would lose so many, like, just fans in general, not even just Italian fans, if you got rid of Monza. I think if you were like Sophie's choice between these two circuits, everyone's going to pick Monza.
Yeah, 100%.
Just hands down. Like, just because of what it means. It's like Silverstone. Like, if you had two British circuits on the calendar and everyone said it's Circuit B or Silverstone, everyone's going to pick Silverstone pretty much. I think it's just one of those things. What I wouldn't object to is having what we used to have once upon a time, which was the European Grand Prix that over the years was held in different countries at different times. So, I don't think Imola was actually ever the European Grand Prix. It might have been on one or two occasions, but it used to be the San Marino Grand Prix at one point, didn't it, Imola? But having like a European Grand Prix that is sometimes it's Imola, sometimes it's Hockenheim, sometimes it's
Nürburgring.
I was going to say Paul Ricard, and then I realised that I was being stupid.
Maybe Mugello.
But like just being able to go to some circuits like that we've seen have really good potential, but maybe don't have the funds and facilities to be a permanent F1 fixture, but the fans love, the drivers love. It's a bit of a win-win in that regard because the circuit gets to maybe draw attention and potentially then be able to warrant becoming a full-time fixture. The fans win because they get to see a bit of variety each season without losing any of the classics that they want to see. And the drivers win because there's a little bit more variety in what they're doing on the schedule and like getting to, because like the drivers, from what I remember, were like really, really happy about going places like, name me the track in Portugal.
Portimao.
Like from what I remember, the drivers loved that circuit and loved the change in elevation and stuff like that presents. So to be able to put Portimao back on the calendar as like a European Grand Prix, and you have like 3, 4, maybe 5 of these circuits that essentially take it in turns over a 5-year period, it's so much easier for them from a commitment point of view, keeps variety in the schedule, and keeps some of these circuits like alive from an F1 perspective. And I think you'd genuinely get people. I know I'd be one of them, that if I was going to pick one race every season in Europe to go to, I'd probably end up picking this race that moves around on the basis that I get to see. So, like, say it's always like some point in July, for argument's sake, like it's in that window of the European summer, and you know that when it is, like, I'd intentionally sort of book my summer holidays around going to that race and going wherever it is, Spain, Portugal, Germany, it doesn't matter to me. So I think that they may be missing a bit of a trick by not having that, but that'd probably mean they have to sacrifice something somewhere else if they're going to do that. So
and with the calendar as big as it is,
or at least use this spot that Imola currently has to become this moving race. But it just it's annoying when we're putting things like the Madrid ring, the Mad ring, whatever you want to call it, on the calendar that look grim, when we've got all these amazing circuits that we've just been talking about that you'd love to go and watch a car around, like all the stuff we've got in Germany that we've not got on the calendar currently, Portimao, Mugello, stuff like that we've seen glimpses of. Like, probably some of the better things that came out of COVID is like getting to see F1 around these variety of tracks, and we've never been back to any really yet except Imola. So
so frustrating.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a big tangent, I think, wasn't it there? Should we do some predictions?
Let's.
Fastest in Q3, Chris. Who do you think it's going to be after all that we've just speculated on?
I can see Verstappen pulling out another monster lap and taking this one.
Okay. I mean, it's not a bad shout. I think the McLaren's in too good a place right now, and we saw how quick it was generally last year. So I'm going to go Norris on this one, just because of how fast he was last year. Had a lot of pace here. I think he might upset those 2-4 streaks, and we'll go for a number 4 win as well. I'm going to go for a double on Norris.
I think I'm going to go Norris for the win as well.
You're going to go for Norris as well. Okay. He needs it at the minute. He needs it just to curb that momentum that Piastri's got. If he genuinely wants to stay in the title fight and be a contender for it, he needs to win this weekend, I think. Even though there's so much of the season left, it's just a momentum thing more than anything. He needs to swing it in his favour, especially starting a triple header. He can then string good results together in the next 3 races. It's a whole different story suddenly. First DNF. Are you going to be mean and say Colapinto, or are you going to say somebody else?
I'm going to say Alonso.
Interesting.
A rough streak at the moment.
Yeah, he's not having the best of it, is he? To be fair, I don't know where I want to go now. I'm not going to be horrible. I feel like, for whatever reason, Tsunoda's had a bit of an up and down time here over the years. I remember him like struggling here at Alpha Tauri, as it was at the time he was there.
Got a point last year.
True. Although, he does most of his sort of mistake making in the practice sessions, doesn't he? No, I'm gonna stick with it, because if I've hypothesized it and then it happens and after I've changed my mind, I'll be good, because I've done that before. So I'm going to stick with Tsunoda. Number of finishers. Where do you want to go for this one, Chris?
it tends to either be uneventful or like half the field retires here, doesn't it, in recent years?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for let's go about 18.
18. I mean, other than when it's ridiculously wet, you don't generally get many retirements here. So I'm probably going to go 19 and go for a slightly higher number. So 18 for you and 19 for me. And then if you've already been doing your predictions on the website, you'll already know that our random driver for this week is Nico Hulkenberg because we activated it for you all to be able to do that, with us being a little bit late recording this week. So, Chris, where do you think Hulkenberg is going to be in Imola?
What have I said? 18 finishers. 15th.
15th. I feel like that might be a bit brave for him this year. Although he has had points at the start of the season, didn't he? But was that the anomaly? Is that a question?
Yeah.
Now I think about where he's been finishing. He has been finishing around 15th and 16th. Right, 16th. Going to go 16th. Somewhere where near you, but not quite the same. So that is me. If you want to get involved with Predictions League, make sure you head to backofthegrid.com where you can register and submit yours to go alongside ours. See how you get on. It's always worth doing because even if you've not been playing for the rest of the season up to now, you can still win a prize for getting 5 out of 5. And then your score will obviously go onto the overall leaderboard. And if you have one of those good weeks where you're picking up 4 and 5 points, you're easily going to catch some people up because it's a difficult thing to get right every week. So make sure you go and check it out, even if you've not played before. If you want to look at any of our fantasy leagues, we're on the official F1 fantasy game, as well as GridRival for both F1 and IndyCar. So all the information for those are there. And that's it from me in Predictions Corner, I think, for now. Have we got anything else to round off on, Chris, or is that about it?
I think that's about it.
Right, well, in that case, then, I'll mention socials. I feel like I've just talked for a long time because of predictions, and now I'm just talking more. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us in all the usual places. We're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky. There's also the TikTok account where you can follow us there and see the shorts. And then you've also got YouTube, which some of you may even be watching on right now. If you are involved on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. Drop us a comment about what you think about this. Tell us how wrong we are about our predictions or something of the like, whatever it may be. And yeah, that is it. Links to everything can always be found on the website at backofthegrid.com. Enjoy Imola, and we will be back next week to review that and start looking ahead to Monaco. So see you then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.